Hey everybody, welcome to All About the Joy. This is Carmen Talk, and I just wanted to do a year end and year beginning podcast and share with you some thoughts I had about what's happened in the past and what's going on in the future. And not that I think anyone really cares what I think so much, but I encourage you to kind of maybe think about doing just a reevaluation of where you're at and where you want to be, and see if there are ways in which you can move forward. And I think that's the exercise I'm kind of doing right now. I do encourage you to go check out last week's live stream. It was so much fun. We had Cynthia and Rick and Mario as well. And we talked about a lot of different things, primarily a lot about Beyonce's performance, but we really had a good time. And we encourage you to continue visiting us on Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's a live chat. It's hanging out. You know the drill. We hope to see you there this following week. And let me just talk about 2024. For the most part, I'm going to say it was a mediocre year for me. And the reason why I say that is because I don't see that any of the highs and lows kind of outdid themselves. And what I mean by that is it kind of balances out in the end. You would think that's a good thing, but I always like to think about my years as movement forward. And I think the first thing I need to acknowledge is that I had some loss this year. A couple friends passed away, but I also lost friends in my life because I had to move away from them. And I don't mean physically, I mean energy-wise, and I think that's the harder thing. I mean, when somebody dies, it's a terrible thing, but it's something out of our own control. And so you have to deal with that sadness and that grief. And so you walk through that to the best of your ability. And I'm doing that every day, especially with one of the people that I lost. It was so unexpected. And we were just becoming better friends. And so that hit kind of hard. And I kind of dealt with that silently and on my own. I think the more important thing was realizing that people that I absolutely love and admire and considered family, I had to push away from. A lot of it has to do with just the way in which they choose to deal with things. But it also is because of an alarming ignorance in politics. And I think what 2024 was really important for me to realize is that people make decisions selfishly based on what only matters to them. But it's the ignorance of not doing the research, of not understanding things better and more in depth that I think angers me more. And so people know I'm not a Trump supporter. This is no surprise. But what was alarming to me was to listen to people who are so ignorant in my own life, becoming not just supporters of Trump, but triumphing in that situation. And unfortunately, I do believe they're going to learn the hard way what's about to happen. And there's nothing I can do about that, because this isn't about that Trump won. This is about people in my own circle that I am shook by, that are this ignorant and this stupid. And I am calling it that. And I've had to push away. But it's not just that either, right? It's not just that, the Trump factor. It's like you start to see the unfolding of people as you are able to step away from them a little bit. You can see how people, the layers come off, right? Because we're all much more in depth than just the surface area. And unfortunately, what I realize is that that's okay. People are complex and people can change their minds all the time. And that I also get as well. But it's just been so disheartening to lose people, not just to them passing away, but losing my faith in who they are. I think that's probably been the hardest thing of 2024 for me. And this goes across the board, work-wise, friendship-wise, people that I love-wise, like just losing faith in people in general in 2024. And I also know it's to protect my own space. And that's, I think, the kind of balancing part of it. The reason why I have to walk away from people is because it's not my job to fix people or teach people or to keep telling people the same thing over and over again. People want to stay ignorant, then they can stay ignorant. You know what I mean? And I've always said this, and it's something that irks a lot of people in my life because it's true, but it's also very arrogant on my part. I don't talk about what I don't know. And there are people who I consider geniuses in my life, and there are people who I consider absolute ignorant idiots in my life, and all of them hate when I say that, but it's because it's true. I don't talk about what I don't know. And so when I know something and I share it with you, it's going to be really hard for you to fight back and argue with me that I'm wrong. And you better have really good backup, because you're not going to win, because I am solid on those things. And I think that's what kills me is that I have proven that to be true over and over and over and over and over again, because that's how I live my life. I do not talk about things I don't know, because I realize that's why people look so stupid. And I learned that as a really young kid, navigating the world, especially on my own, trying to figure out how I could understand what was going on. And I realized I understood absolutely nothing. And so the best thing to do when you don't know something is to ask a question or to shut up and learn. And I think that's what has completely thrown me for a loop in 2024, is knowing in my heart of hearts that people that I care about still did the wrong thing, even though they knew what the answer was. Because not only did I tell them, but it was right in front of them. All they had to do was a little research. So I think 2024, as far as, loss, has been really big for me. And not so much in death, but just loss of people that I believed in and thought greatly of and really had faith in. And I don't think I'm going to get that back. But in the same breath, I've protected my space. I've pushed away from people who are unhealthy for me. They're great people in the world and they're amazing human beings. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to act like if you're not for me, you cannot exist, but I realize more and more in my life that I just need good energy around me. I need good and uplifting spirits. And that doesn't mean people who agree with me, but that does mean people who understand how to make a point and how to argue something with me and how to come with information to at least let me respect you. See, I don't respect people who don't have background information on anything that they're talking about. And so that's been hard, but it's also, I think, part of the process of relationships. I think it would be really creepy weird if all my relationships in life were perfect and wonderful. You know what I mean? So in that sense, I feel really good. But again, 2024 is just kind of this mediocre year. Like everything I'm going to talk about today is just really kind of balanced out and blah, When it comes to my health and wellness, I've had some ups and downs. This whole thyroid situation came at me from nowhere. Nobody knows why it happens, but my thyroid went crazy and I am now on medication. I take no medications, none. And I've now had to figure this out with a doctor on a regular basis, going in and out. And I know I'm complaining about nothing, because at one point they thought it might be cancer and it wasn't cancer. So I'm grateful for that. I really am. But I'm also like, what the hell? Like when you ask, why does this happen? It happens more times than not. And so now I'm on this medication for the rest of my life because my thyroid's a mess. And I guess it's like a normal thing. And I'm just shook by that. The other thing medically that happened to me this year was my hand. I've been wearing a brace for a long time. I just took it off this holiday break because it's been about a year now, but that was also kind of a bad thing in that I was in so much pain and I had to wear a brace while I slept during the day. I mean, I wore it all the time and it's fine. I'm good and I'm okay with it, but it really was sad. And I had to get x-rays and MRIs and ultrasounds. And I spent so much money because also insurance sucks, as we all know. And I wasted a lot of money because a lot of places that I had to go to get these things done were not covered under my insurance plan. And I didn't know that they weren't. So that angered me and frustrated me because not only do the doctor's offices not have information to make sure you go to the right place, you're supposed to ask every single thing. Like if my surgeon says, I need you to go to this place to get an MRI, why am I even thinking I have to question? It's not like I go get an MRI all the time, But that was one of the mistakes I made. I didn't question every single thing. And so I ended up paying like $914 for a friggin' MRI because I went to the wrong place that wasn't covered under my plan. And it still is bothering me. Like I'm angry about it. And people are like, oh yeah, that was the other thing. Talking to other people about it, just sharing my frustration and then having people tell me what I should have done. Like, duh, after the fact. But that's a whole other issue. I also had issues with my teeth this year. I mean, not to go down all of the medical stuff. I'm just saying this was a weird year. And I'm fine medically. Like these are all to me kind of really topical bullshit kind of things. Even my hand, and even my thyroid, it's not cancer. It's not all these other things it could have been. I understand the blessing and the grace in it, but I'm just talking about my little tiny itty bitty frustration. let's talk about the world of entertainment, because that was a fantastic one for me. I have to say, one of my favorite things that I did this year was go see the movie Wicked. And what an exciting time that was. I also enjoyed just being on TikTok and participating a little bit more in social media, and also just being entertained by some incredible talents. Not only in like the entertainment world, but like dancers and people on TikTok who, are gaining strength as content creators. And, I don't think it'll ever equal Hollywood, but it is sure giving it a run for its money, just different types of celebrities and people doing different things. Some of the storytelling on TikTok, especially, is just incredible. I also say the same thing for Instagram, but TikTok seems to be the one. And look I hope we save TikTok, because I think TikTok is an incredible social media platform. And I also think, this is just me, if you're going to come for TikTok for all of its problematic issues regarding identity and information on Americans, you need to go after Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube. Well, I guess Google and YouTube are the same thing, but you see what I'm saying. Instagram and Facebook are the same thing. Like, all of these companies have all of our information. And I have to tell you, I'm not sure I trust anybody with the amount of information everybody has on all of us. So I think there actually needs to be some kind of restraints on all social media, but pinpointing TikTok seems to be a really ridiculous and very slimy kind of thing that we as Americans are trying to do in order to own a part of an incredible platform that was not made in the United States, I think that's the other thing. Learning more about my country this year in 2024 has been not only enlightening, but devastating, very, very devastating. This has been an ongoing trickle, just learning about who I am as a Black and Latino woman in this country, especially after the murder of George Floyd. Just kind of learning more about my own history and who we really are as Americans in the United States of America, and how the outside world actually views us, because we have this arrogant idea that we are the best at everything, and we are not. And I don't need to go down the entire line or subjects in this podcast about what we're not great at, but suffice it to say, most everything we are not the best at. And even this kind of idea that you can come to this country and become somebody is actually also being dismissed, because especially with the Trump administration coming into office in January, God help us all, the idea of immigrants is just right out the door. This angry hatred for immigrants, especially if they're brown skinned. Because let's be honest, that's what this is about. It's about the brown skin. And for people out there who are like, no, see, we're not racist. Here, at the end of the day, I have never heard anyone talking about the immigrants from Poland or the immigrants from any other country that is white, except for immigrants that are coming from Mexico and El Salvador and Honduras and anybody who has brown skin. So spare me. This is straight up racism. And, I'm so sad because the outside world sees us in such a poor light now, because we just don't have the ability to get out of our own way. And yeah, had we voted in someone like Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, I think it would have started making a change, right? That we were going into a new era, into a more youthful, a more open, and just having a woman be president would have been an incredible change. We are one of the last countries to never have had a woman be in charge. It is so pathetic that so many women have been better prime ministers and leaders of countries. And, we're still here with the old white men. I'm sorry, and in this case, as everyone knows, I have to say it over and over again, Trump is just not up to par as far as being the leader of this country. And suffice it to say, it'll be Elon Musk, which is scarier on a whole other level. But, we're just going to move along because I don't want to talk about that so much. But I think that's the other part too, is just realizing who our country is in the outside world. And, I have a friend I just spoke to in Spain, who is from the United States, but has lived in Spain for most of his adult life. And, he is just saying he just has no regrets ever having moved. And he moved like right after high school. So it's not like, it's not like he just moved recently. So I'm looking forward to hopefully visiting him in Spain this year. I'm very excited about that possibility. So that's something I'm looking forward to. But I want to talk about technology as well, technology and innovation. I mean, the invention, I shouldn't say invention because I guess it's been around for a while, but AI, artificial intelligence. I use it every single day. I know people are afraid. We're always afraid when something new comes along. And I agree with that. I get it. People are going to lose jobs. Things are going to change. It's going to be really bumpy and hard and scary. But the thing about the human spirit that I love is that we're always trying to find the next thing. We're always trying to be better than we used to be, right? I mean, that's why we, invented the wheel and then had a car and then, like there's always something. We have airplanes but I think artificial intelligence to me is the next step, and I am embracing it to the best of my ability. You can have more than one thought process on this. You can love the idea of it and how it assists you. And you can also hate the fact that it can do more damage to us than not. So, I'm not a tech genius by any means, not even a tiny little bit, but my God, I love AI. It's helped me so much in so many different ways, personally, work-wise, just creatively. It really is an assistant in a lot of ways right now. And I think there's a lot of flaws to it at the moment, even while I hate that I use AI and it doesn't remember what we talked about, 2 months ago. And I have to keep reminding it, but they're doing that because of security reasons. And then in the next breath, I'm like, yeah, that's going to change soon. You know what I mean? But it's fascinating to me. Technology is amazing. I also got a new phone this year, which was awesome. And I had waited for almost 5 years to upgrade, and I upgraded and it was free. So that made me happy. I don't know. I feel like those are kind of the big highlights, I didn't do a lot of traveling personally this year. One of the books that I just read over the holiday is You Don't Need a Budget. This is not a fiction. This is not an adventure story. This is a book about money, but it was so well done. It was written by Dana Miranda, and she was on our show recently. So go check that out on YouTube. And the book came out, and seriously, it is a different mindset and a different thinking process about money. And I love it. I thought it was really well written, really easy to read, which is not true about most books about money. So that was kind of the big book for me this year. I know that sounds weird. Sports and fitness, I got nothing for you. I have really been on this trying to walk 10,000 steps a day. I have failed. I said that already over and over and over again. I am maybe making 9,000 steps a day just on the regular, but it's not enough to get myself back on track fitness wise. I need to be doing that plus more, because I need to do that for my own spirit, and I'm working on it, As far as other more important things like my personal achievements, I think that was kind of lackluster this year. I do have my company and I do have my trademark, and I'm really excited about that. I talked a little bit about that on the show last night, and I am excited about that. But, I'm still doing work I hate. So I need to figure out a way to change that. And that's my hope in 2025, is to move along from doing work I hate to doing things that I love to do, and finding myself back in the spirit of what I am intending to be doing with my life. So it's a tough call, because we all want that paycheck. And once you get used to a certain kind of lifestyle, even though my lifestyle is very simple, at the end of the day, it's really hard for me to be like, you know what? I don't need the money. I'm just going to quit. I could quit several of my clients, but it's going to affect the work that I do love, which is this podcast, the live stream, just I'm working on the second book. And it's just this weird thing. Like, I have played the lottery, haven't won yet, but I do think an influx of cash would propel me to a different place. I don't think anyone needs $1 billion from the lottery. I really don't. But damn, a few million would really get me to where I need to be and would really change the game. So, we can all wish and dream, what can you say? Relationships. I've already talked about that a lot. I'm not involved in any romantic relationships. And unlike a couple of my friends, it's not that I'm not interested in love. I'm just not looking for it. And I think that for myself, what's happened is I'm so disappointed in the quality of people that I meet around me, just regular people, not even people I'd be romantically interested in, that I feel dead inside. That sounds so horrible. There are certain men I absolutely love and I think the world of, but I don't want a relationship with them, and I feel like love is going to have to find its way without me trying so hard, which I know is every relationship coach out there is like, oh my God, but I really, it's been a long time since I've been interested in anyone. And I know that's very standoffish, and doing this podcast probably is going to help, but I don't see myself living my life alone. But I'm not alone. I'm surrounded by just wonderful, awesome people all the time. But romantically, it's going to have to be someone who is just so secure in who they are that I don't intimidate them. And it's going to have to be somebody that is a spark in my eye that I can't control. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's for everybody. I don't even think that that's something exclusive to me, but I just feel like you're either attracted to somebody or you're not. And I don't even think it's about standards. Like, I remember my friend Richard used to say to me, like, your standards are so high. He would say that about anything, about people in my life, whatever. And I would argue with him so much because I knew he was wrong. Your standards can't be too high. You know, I think the problem is everyone's standards are so low. Like I am not willing to accept anything less than what I want in my life. And I'm either going to be attracted to you or I will not be, right? Whether that's a romantic relationship or not. And I think the thing about men and me and friendships is I have never been any different than I am today. I'm just older and more bold about it, but I have never been quiet and submissive and, someone who doesn't have an opinion. Those things are just who I am. And I cannot tell you how many men have told me, I think you're amazing and great. You're just so intimidating. I think that says more about them than it does about me, So I think the men that I have had the best relationships with and that I'm still friends with today, right? Even though it didn't work out for other reasons, those men were never intimidated by me. We just, like other relationships, you move, you grow, you move forward, and I'm still in touch with them and we're still good friends, but never intimidated at all. And so finding men who are not intimidated by my regularness and then finding men who are just men that I connect with, it's just so much work. And it's so something that I think has to be either a natural thing or a not forced thing. And so I think when it comes to relationships romantically, I've just kind of like, meh, I'm just going to, I'm okay being on my own. And I'm okay with the idea that I would die alone, meaning without a romantic partner. I don't think I will ever die alone. I mean, I think we all die alone, right? But I know that I am loved. And I've known that since I was a kid. And that is my biggest wealth. That is why I'm one of the wealthiest people I know to this day, is because I have never been confused by the people who do love me and the people who are in my life and that are family. And so I've never been confused by that. So romantic relationships are just kind of like meh, blah. And relationships in general this year have been just interesting. They've kind of balanced out. And again, it goes back to that idea of just, I need people who get me. And if you're too much work for me as a friend, I just don't want you in my life right now. It's just too much work. If you're too much work to be my friend, if you need attention all the time, I cannot help you. I cannot help you. I'm sorry. And I am too tired to keep proving to you that we're buddies, that we're friends. It's just too much work. Like me having to prove anything to you is part of the problem. That's probably why we're not really good friends. That's why I'm probably not in touch, So I know this is a problem a lot of people wish they had, but I'm telling you, I feel really comfortable that I have 5 good friends that I can count on one hand that if I needed something would be here in a moment's notice or would do whatever they could. And I am grateful for that. It is my greatest wealth. And I will never, ever, ever do anything to hurt that or to diminish that but I'm not confused by relationships. Relationships are hard. They are earned. And I think relationships for me in the past year have just been kind of mediocre. Let me think about memorable experiences from this past year. I don't think I have any. I think they're all a conglomerate of like many different things. That is so sad. I don't think I did anything fantastic this year that I'm proud of. So I'm going to work on that for 2025. I did go to Aruba, but it wasn't as much fun as I thought it was going to be because I ended up with a bed bug drama thing. And even those friends that I went with, I kind of had to push away from because, again, they didn't do anything wrong. And I will always love them for who they were in my life. But there's also this thing where, when things are really tough, that's when I know the kind of friend or person you are in my life. It's not when things are easy. When things are easy, it's great to be friends. It's really easy to be someone's friend or family member or whatever. But who are you when things are really, really tough? And I went to Aruba. Unfortunately, I ended up with just when I got back, just bed bugs had just eaten away at my skin. It was a horrible experience. I had to get my whole place fumigated. I had to throw away thousands of dollars worth of suitcase. I mean, it ruined everything and it really bummed me out. But more importantly, what bummed me out was the reaction of all the women I went with, which was no reaction at all. There was no support. There was no help. There was no camaraderie in it. And I will never go on a trip with them again. And look, the truth is, I don't think I would have ever done it again anyways, because I am not a group trip person. I was just really excited to see my friends who I hadn't seen in a long time. And so it was, in that sense, I was glad I did it. The bed bug thing was unfortunate and I don't blame them at all. It wasn't their fault, but I sure as hell know if one of them had gotten the bed bugs and one of them had to experience it, I would have been full on 100% in their corner, helping them in every way possible to make sure they were taken care of. And I think that was really sad for me on so many levels. And it kind of changed how I deal with friends, especially friends from the past who I don't live near, who I don't talk to on a regular basis. And, I think that's good. I think that's a healthy thing. I would be really fake if I kept pretending it was okay how this whole thing went down. And it's also not my place to have to explain to people how they behaved badly. You know what I mean? I think that's the other thing too, is there's no alarm or interest on their part to find out why I'm not talking to them again. So that says a lot too. And look, I don't think that's a bad thing either. That is their world. That is their friendships. That is their kind of thing. So, I'm not really part of their group and I acknowledge that. I get it and I'm okay with that. And so that's an interesting thing as far as memorable experiences. That was not a good one. It was a really, really bad one. And then the deaths of two of my friends hit me really hard. So memorable experiences were not great. You know what I mean? They were not great. Acts of kindness. Well, I will say this. I experienced a really beautiful act of kindness. I don't want to talk about it too much, but I will say this to the person that was so kind to me and helped me and lifted me up. I love you. I care about you. I know you listen to this podcast on a regular basis. So that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say on that, because that was an amazing act of kindness on your part to me. Thank you so much. Love you with all my heart. I do have some new creative pursuits, which I'm excited about. And people have heard me, talk about the second book. I am working on that. I'm trying to do my business plan so that I can try to get some funding. That's the next thing I'm working on. And I've been working on another little project, which unfortunately got a little bit delayed. Again, if I wasn't working 50 hours a week, if I wasn't working it's not even the amount of hours. Let me just say that. I am tired of working for people who are so high maintenance, and I'm tired of doing this work, because what it's doing, it's just stripping my soul to have to deal with people who constantly are needy and cannot function on their own. Like, doing this work is just not what I'm supposed to be doing. It doesn't matter how good I am at it. It's stripping me of my creativity, and I need to get back to it. And so 2025, that really is my only goal, is to get out of this work permanently and just do the things that I love to do. And again, it's like, I'm going to do that, but where am I going to get that money from? You know what I mean? And I love Gary Vee. Everyone knows I really admire him and how he talks about things. But, it's not about just going to garage sales and buying things and reselling them to make money. Like, it's not going to work. But he has, this whole hustle thing. And it's like, yeah, not everyone functions that way. And so I need to figure out a way for me to move on to the next step. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And so I share this with you not because I just wanted to kind of divulge all of my stuffage, although for me, it is kind of a cleansing and it is kind of a way in which of wrapping up 2024 and then talking about 2025 and thinking on what my next steps are. But it's also to share with you that this might be a good time. Take all of January to do that, to kind of think about what happened in 2024. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it irrelevant? Did it balance out? How do you feel about it? What are your next steps possibly? And I don't necessarily believe in New Year's resolutions. I don't think anyone ever accomplishes it, by the way. I don't think I've ever heard anyone be in like October, November, December, like, you know what? I did this resolution and I'm still doing it now and I've accomplished my goal. I've never heard anybody do that. But for those who have ever done that, bravo to you. But what I do believe in and what always does work for me is to have like a little draft or template of what I hope the following year would be like, right? So for me, I know there needs to be a huge change in my work life because it is stripping me of my creativity. That is very specific. And it is something I am working on. And it is going to take every part of my being to figure out how to not be in this situation in 2026. And the reason why it's so important is because I am not fulfilling what I am supposed to be doing here on the planet. And I know that because I'm not happy. And I look, a lot of people can't do what they need to do because they have responsibilities. Like you have children and a husband, or you have illnesses, or you have, things you have to buy your house. I have none of those things at all. Thank God, like knock on wood. I made choices not to have children. I made choices not to buy a house. I made choices, right, to be in this. I live very, very simply. My car is 20 years old. It's the best car ever, though. I'm never going to get rid of it. I love this car. It's in mint condition. It's so cool. But I always think about that, right? Because I live in LA and it's like, how come I don't have a new car? And it's so funny because I don't want a car payment. Even though I could afford it, I don't want a car payment, and I certainly don't want my insurance to be shot up. But my point is that I make these choices, and all of these choices that I've made that I think are really good choices to put me and set me up in a situation so they can be pursuing the things I love the most. I'm not doing that. And I'm not doing that because somebody asked me to help them with their company, and then it became this thing. So I have put myself in this situation and I want to walk myself through it. So my hope for you, anybody who's listening to this podcast, is a couple things. Just do a template, a reassessment of what happened in 2024. Be okay with whatever that comes out to be. Balanced out, not what you wanted, or wow, it was amazing. Be okay with it because we as humans do the best that we can do all the time. We can only do the best we can as we're walking in it, right? 2020 is hindsight, right? So you want to turn around and just do an evaluation. Why? Because then you can look at the future and be like, okay, 2025, what do I want to maybe put a light draft template on to say to myself, these are the things I would like to pursue possibly, And the reason why I don't want it to be so concrete is because then failure is not an option. It is all just a possibility. I really need to be doing more creative work. I don't think I have the capacity or the energy with the example that I've seen in the past year of how much work it takes to take care of my clients, emotionally draining, physically draining, technically draining. Brain fog is a thing for me. Like I get so tired of being asked the same questions over and over again, especially from one client who is just a different animal altogether. And for me, I have seen in the past year, I can't do both. I can't then come home after a day of being drained from these clients and be like, oh, let me write a book. You know what I mean? Let me write a chapter in my book. I can't do it. I've tried to get up at 3 a.m. and it's not working. I've done everything I can to keep being a creative human being, and I can't do it. So I know my limitations. And so something's got to give. And you know what's not going to give? My dream. My dream of doing something I love for a living is not going to die because it hasn't died since I was a little kid, and it's not going to die now. It has changed form. It has changed form for sure because I thought I was going to be a dancer. I thought I was going to be a dancer on Broadway and on, music videos because that was a big thing back then. And then I thought I'd be a choreographer, but that didn't work out the way it is. But I'm still and will always be a performer. So how do I get there? How do I get back there? Right now, the live stream, which you all know is all about the joy. Please visit allaboutthejoy.com, buy some swag, support us in that way. All About the Joy is a hangout every week on Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's a whole bunch of us just hanging out. You're welcome to join the show in the chat. We're going to have a guest once a month on the show. I would love to do that show 3 times a week. I think we need this. I think this is something we need, a place where you come and chit chat about whatever's going on in the week, and then we find joy in it anyway, right? It's like hanging out on the stoop back in the day when you were coming home from work or coming home from school, and everybody would be out in the neighborhood and we'd be chit chatting about what's going on, right? I love that idea and sense of community, and I want that to be a much bigger thing, right? The next book I'm writing about is also about being in circumstances and finding your way through to the other side to always find joy, because that is what I have done my entire life is I have found a way to make it through no matter what my circumstances have been. And my circumstances have not been any worse or better than anyone else. We all have to walk through our own journey. But how do we do that? What are the skills? What are the tools? What are the things we need to do in order to make that happen? And I got information on that on so many different levels, and I want to share that with people. But yeah, check out the show on Thursday nights. Thank you for listening to the podcast for all of us. We are so grateful for our listeners. I love everyone who is liking our pages on LinkedIn and Facebook. Really, really grateful for people who follow me on TikTok. I know I don't do a lot of TikToks, but we do post on there on social media, links from the show on a regular basis. So I'm really grateful for that too. And so thank you again. I wish you a wonderful and beautiful rest of 2024. And more importantly, I am excited and sending you so much joy, love, and possibility in 2025. So remember, at the end of the day, it really is all about the joy. Thanks for stopping by All About the Joy. Be better and stay beautiful, folks. Have a sweet day.